Hey guys, hope you are doing great. I'm Avi Divedi and you are listening on Extended Reality Developers of India community. And today we have a very cool guest. He's one of the pioneers in the gaming and VR industry. So without any further delay, let's welcome him on the. So hi Rajat, how are you?
Hi, I'm
So
pretty good. How are you guys?
I'm doing really well and welcome on the show. And we are really happy, pleased, and honored to host you on the show. So let's first start your introduction. How did you gaming the gaming industry and what was the journey? It's a long journey, and because you are one of the early
Yeah,
starters, so let's discuss that. And we are really happy to know.
yes. I'll be a little quick here because it's 25 years now. This is my 25th year in the game industry in total. I started in back in 1995. When I made a game called Sea Dogs. The whole actual journey started in 1989 when I actually got an Atari at my home, and in fact, that was the wow moment for me because that was the first time I was like the controlling the idiot box. Otherwise it was like a unidirectional thing, but I started enjoying that. So I at that time itself I kind of decided that I want to make a career there. So two things happened in my life. I got Atari and I saw Star Wars. Both the things completely changed my life because I was born in a doctor's family, with complete pressure of becoming a doctor, a very stereotypical, Indian thing, but I chose to learn computers and do engineering. And instead of making the, typical library or banking software in my college project, I actually made a game which I launched on the Education Research Network, and from there it became kind of viral, back in those days, kind of viral definition. And then quickly, IBM picked me up to do, the AI and stuff. So I was working on the AI and working on some of the AAA games back then, but focusing largely on the AI side of the thing. And working with them, then worked with Toshiba, where I was, I joined as the global technology director, focusing a lot on the early days of Wi-Fi based games, all the multiplayer things and stuff. So not just playing on your laptop and PCs, you could actually play on the Pocket PC and cross-platform thing. So I pretty much, led the entire group to do that. And then I worked in defense, again using the game technology, and that's one of the reasons why the defense and other things actually, our defense, simulations were really popular because of that, because we were using game technologies, and people used to say this looks real,
Wow.
and you know, then compared to other simulation company who were using simulation specific software like Vega Prime and all that, we were using Unreal Engine,
Right.
and we used Try briefly. So
So
yeah,
graphically, it
that's
gives
what.
an
And
edge. Yeah. Also,
absolutely a big huge, this thing completely changes the perception of the people who are looking at it.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah, you're saying something.
Yeah.
So
So also about the Gamertronics, you founded your company called Gamertronics, and it has done some major games and things. So would also love to
yeah,
focus on that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I'm coming to that. So yeah, we started this the Awesome Game Studio in US, which was like my own company, and it's Gametronic. There's also it's the evolution. So in the Awesome Game Studio, we were actually working on some big, huge titles, and again, focus was completely on games. We learned to do mobile game also. We did one game which won the Indie Innovation Award in Germany in one of the event, and we thought like because mobile was kind of new and we wanted to try, but we kind of failed at that. We saw accolades and all those kind of things and stuff, but it was never close to my heart kind of thing. We actually made decent money also in certain projects in mobile, but it was never too close, and I was already hunting for what's next. And I was one of those fortunate guy who actually worked in VR in 2006 itself while working with the defense. That time Vuzix used to have that VR headset, which was more like a helmet and stuff. So I was completely sold on the VR idea. And in 2012-13, I was kind of pushing, and I was an earlier Kickstarter supporter of the Oculus also. So I got my early DK1,
Right.
from them. And I was playing around with it, and that's when we met a couple of folks from Samsung and all these guys who were actually doing a theme park in Dubai, and they gave us one of the biggest IP and asked us to play with it in VR and see if we could actually make something. My team was like kind of this is the moment they were looking for, because mobile was not working out for us in terms of satisfaction part and stuff like that. And this was again going back to the same big game kind of thing what we were actually we used to relate ourselves with. And that's when and that IP was Resident Evil. And Resident Evil is a big huge IP and huge following, and the pressure of satisfying the loyal audience of Resident Evil and still accommodating that within that 8 to 12 minute kind of thing was the biggest challenge. But we
Absolutely.
actually but we did amazing. And that's when the whole journey of theme park in a way started, because it was basically for a theme park, but we didn't know that we would end up being the complete kind of we'll start doing the full scale theme park. But during that process we learned everything, how to integrate hardware, how to design the layout and other things and stuff, and we ended up doing most of the part of that particular park. And that's when we realized that the game studio name is not fitting kind of thing, and we need to evolve ourselves. And that's when we actually decided to call ourselves Gamertronics, which means games and electronics,
Games and electronics.
merging these two things. Exactly. And we have some electronic projects also which are separate. But yeah, so and after that we started working, at various locations globally. We worked on some of the biggest IPs where people can imagine, especially the Battlefield. In VR, we did the Resident Evil, yeah, the Gears of War, Splinter Cell, Plant vs Zombies, and several others. For this theme park, then we did some of the things for the Bollywood theme park. We did a theme park in Italy, in Australia, like, and then we started, expanding our universe in terms of, building everything, and we recently, in fact, not recently, 2 years ago, we finished rainwater harvesting theme park, which is an educational theme park, the smallest we have done, but probably again, very inspirational, because that shows how technology can be used to, keep kids entertained about very complicated and significant, things like rainwater harvesting, right? And it's doing amazing. Globally, people actually came, and it's in Hyderabad, so again next door for my company. In a way, it's become a showcase. The same thing is being replicated all around India now, and we are doing it, and at the same time, we are doing some other large scale, like 100 to 180-acre theme parks, which we are building, at various locations. In this process, we never forgot our roots also, and we are still doing games, and other than theme parks. And at the same time, one of our VR game is about to get launched, which is already operational in 136 arcade locations around the globe. Now we are actually coming out with the consumer edition of that,
So,
with
so
probably
what is this game
yeah.
about? What is this new VR game about?
Okay, so this game is called Speedy Gun Savage.
Okay,
If I don't know if you heard the song from Pat Boone, Speedy Gun Savage, why don't you
absolutely.
come home, right? So yeah, so the same kind of, so we have this cowboy guy, and he goes to different planets, and he's a bounty hunter basically. So his job is to actually kill the nemesis and all those enemies, and actually collect bounties and upgrade his weapon and all those kind of things. So it's a shooter, but not a typical VR shooter where you just go gun blazing at stupid thing. It's got proper boss fight. It's got different kind of world. It's got the core, those interesting mechanics what you had generally see in the games like Doom and all this kind of thing. The whole inspiration started with Wolfenstein 3D, if you remember that game,
Yes,
which came in
the very
1991, 92 kind of thing.
Wolfenstein
So
3D was the very
mm,
first FPS games, right?
yeah, exactly. It was, yeah, absolutely. It changed everything for the video game industry largely. So me and my brother, we used to actually compete. Like how far you can go without dying, and you are not allowed to stop at all. And I missed my trains, buses, and everything. In those early days, so it was like speed run mode kind of thing. So I knew that it was super successful formula, and I wanted to replicate that. in this game, and initial name was Wolf Runner actually, and I showed it to John Romero also, and he kind of loved playing it on mobile. Initially, it was again on mobile, but we were not getting anywhere on mobile, so we changed everything right from the like the entire design and everything, and made it completely. I can actually send you the video of that later, but the game is fairly done. We are balancing and doing the QA part of that, but aiming to release in later July. So but it's already doing like really really well in the arcades all across the world actually. So yeah, that's the thing. So it's a shooter, but with proper boss fights, which
Proper
people
proper boss.
love.
Amazing. Good to see such kind of game in VR. Also, would like to focus on you are from a doctor family and
Yeah, that's right.
you choose gaming industry. So my
Yeah,
question is, where does the inspiration come from, and also what was the initial reaction of the family that why gaming, and what
hmm
how would you able to manage them understand in 1995 that you want to pursue this career, and
I could
how
not.
hard works that?
I
So
could not.
what was that story? Would
you
love
know,
to cover.
yeah, yeah. So the whole thing started with the whole Atari thing, when it actually came to my house. And so instead of playing the games, I always used to look at the screen and figure out how the hell this thing is moving. So I was like, and I still keep repeating in every conference that, learn to postmortem, learn to, dissect, the game you're playing. If you want to be a great, good game developer or somebody like that, so that is the biggest thing. So I was very, very curious. I was kind of a tinkerer. So in more than buying the toys, I used to make my own toys. So that was one of the thing I had. So I used to tinker around with a lot of things, I had a microscope and all those things like when I was like 10, 12 years old. I used to play with these kind of things. So that was one next step for me when I was actually figuring out how it is happening. And I had an amazing pressure of, joining the, the clan, the family business in a way, right? But the thing is that what was not working out for me was like it was absolutely not triggering any of my emotion other than sadness and disappointment, right? And that is not something I wanted to do. And it was definitely a kind of a nightmare situation for both the family and me, kind of in a way, because they were like they just didn't want me to actually choose anything else. So they actually use pretty much what we call Samdam Dandabhed, so
Absolutely.
every trick in the bag. And the only thing is that I kind of did not buzz, because and one of the thing which I did was leaving my hometown, which is actually Jodhpur in Rajasthan. Because if you're around the pressure situation and stuff, it's very difficult to deal with it. So I left, and I was in Delhi, and then I prepared for engineering. Still, nobody was okay. Even when I released the game and stuff, nobody was okay. But then they started seeing my early success, with my first product, my second product. My career was shaping up. Being a globetrotter very early on, and having some decent kind of lifestyle and all that. So kind of people kind of it's like those early days of love marriages. Bacha kar lo and then deal with it.
Then deal
Family
with
will
it.
come together.
Absolutely.
They want to see this. They want to see result, and then they are okay with that kind of.
Great
So
strategy.
that's
Great
yeah,
strategy.
exactly. Yeah, so the good thing is that I kind of became successful, so it was easier for me to deal post the success kind of thing. But during that process, it was always kind of it was tug of war, was always happening. Even at a later stage, it was like even now see if you can do this, do that kind of thing. But I always say, and I keep repeating, I might be the villain here in the room, but parents are always last generation. But the world is built by the guys who are thinking forward, and and they're at least
Absolutely.
staying current, even if they're so just do what makes your heart happy and what you want to do. So that's the story, and that's why it was kind of because my heart was into it. So even when I was learning computer, I was not learning computer in general. I was learning to make game. My focus was absolutely laser sharp back then. Also, we have somehow I found one BPP Publications book. I keep forgetting the name. It's a building video game or something like that, but it had a floppy of 1.44 MB floppy, and had C++ code of one Tommy G game engine kind of thing, in which you could jump and see and all those things. So that was my initial, learning, and that's how I could understand, how you actually control, sprites and all those things on the screen and stuff. And then I made a game which was inspired by Doom, but was done like Epic Jazz Jackrabbit. If you remember that game, Jazz Jackrabbit, which was an amazing, super high-paced game and all that, and it was done in Pascal. So my
Wow,
first game was also done in Pascal,
Pascal.
and it had all the inspiration from Doom. It was a top-down shooter game, and did really really well, and placed me, in the overall, like people at least got to know about, that, this is what I was capable of, or stuff like that. So it became my, testimonial, living testimonial. So
Because you talked about Doom, because you talked about some classic legendary games, I would like to know
yeah,
what is missing in today's games, if it is missing, or the today's game are also on par. What we still need to learn from the legendary classes, which we still enjoy playing. On other hand,
yeah.
we have games which are in my Xbox listing, but I don't want to play because I have completed the series and it's just not fun now. So,
Yeah.
what do we need to learn from the classics and implement in the newer games?
So again, the new generation of game is like much larger. It covers much larger range, including mobile games. I'm absolutely not a mobile game player. I don't play on mobile. It's very difficult for me. I
Right.
don't like that, Eureka Forbes kind of strategy where you are constantly knocking the door and asking people to buy, and hinder my experience about the game. What I
Otherwise, too
hate
much of
about today's
ads, right? Otherwise,
Yeah,
too much
otherwise
of
too much of
ads.
ad all the time. Yeah, exactly. You're so right. I talked about that also. Like I was like the only game I was playing during this lockdown on mobile was this Stick Cricket Live, which is a multiplayer stick cricket version. The entire session is 4 minutes, but after that I watched 30 seconds of video. And then I changed something, and then I watched 30-second video again. Like, come on, man! Like, I love that game. I love for what it is, but too much of advertisement, kills me. And constant push to buy things and stuff, I guess, is really bad. And the same thing is happening in the console. Like again, EA, right? I can call it out. Everybody knows how greedy this company is. Even if somebody is buying a $60 game or something like that, they still enforce people to do the in-app
In-app
purchases and all
purchases,
those kind of
character
things are,
purchases,
yeah.
yes.
It just doesn't work for me. People, because another bad thing is that because earlier games were like, expression of your creativity basically. Now it's which is fine. You have to have business aspect to that, but just to meet deadline. Like imagine now the deadline, like this holiday season is starting, right? Call of Duty and all these games have to come, but they got affected 3 months, right? They had that 3 months of cooled completely, when there was not much of productivity was there, right? But still they have to meet that deadline, so the game will be broken, right, initially, or will come up with, like 30 GB or 40 GB of patch, for first day patch and everything. So that way, at least, the Cyberpunk is doing good that they are delaying their game, because in the name they have to balance this thing, they have to fix a lot of things, because it doesn't make sense that you buy it and then again you wait for another 1 hour to actually download that 40 GB of patch. So the greed is never ending now, because it's a legit business, right? Game is now a legit business. It's not, those people who are sitting in their garages making this kind of things and stuff like it was there in the past, right? So, and it's still making decent games, an amazing game, and pretty good money also, right? So the thing is that, so that is creeping in big time. One of the thing is that in the name of bigger, huge narrative, open world game kind of thing, people are losing the plot. The pacing is something which is very important, or depth is very important. So either they sacrifice depth or they sacrifice pacing, right? In the overall
Absolutely.
game. So it doesn't make any sense that you make big, huge world and just leave the player there and let him figure out everything. At least there has to be some structure and other things. So some of the games actually suffered because of those things, and at the same time, so I guess, but I'm super happy with how the game industry evolved overall. the leaving the business side aside and stuff, the Uncanny Valley, the seeing the Last of Us, two. I've been playing this, almost finishing it now. A beautiful game, God of War. What a great game it was, the last one. So the thing is that the games are used to create and provoke some emotions in you, and successfully being able to do that, I think that's the that's where the world is going. And in fact, one of the chase sequence in The Last of Us, in the
Yes.
initial like first 45 minutes or 50 minutes itself, when Abby is running, that's the reason why we play games for.
Right.
That is what definition the game is for me. You feeling that you're there, you're like completely is dealing with the chaos and other things. I'm very happy with it. It has evolved, so I don't have any complaints against, other than the the whole greed system in the business, especially the EA and some other company also try to imitate that. I kind of hate that, but at the same time, losing out on the depth and the pacing of the game is another thing, which probably in the name of making big games. And another thing which I blame, a couple of game engines for, that it has the game engines now are like absolutely dirt cheap, right? Like, or zero money, right? At this
Zero money.
moment to get started, zero, right? So when we started, it was over $1 million, per game, per platform kind of thing, and we used to pay happily, So now is the time when it's reaching out. So there is a lot of garbage coming, and I have to actually cull out on, like, and sometimes because this much of garbage and this much of huge dump, it's very difficult for me to pick out one awesome game out of, probably there is one awesome game, right? Like Baba Is You, I and my kid keep on talking about this particular game. We just love it. It's a gem. It's a hidden gem, right? Kind of thing. It's known, but still, because there are like 10, 100,000 games or something like that, over there, picking out and figuring out this game from the dump is very difficult. So I keep dealing with the whole thing, that there are a lot of people who are just dumping games in the name, download some asset from Unity Asset Store, put something together and release it, kind of thing. It's okay. It's okay when you want to do it, but I'm kind of purist. I come from the school of when guitar and the drums were real and not EDM. I come from the school where you talk about the game systems and subsystems and all those things. You don't just come and dump something and make a Temple Run clone and all those kind of things and stuff, and then say that these guys are like part defining. No, before this, Pitfall was there. Activision had done that kind of amazing game, like in early 80s 90s kind of days, right? So knowing the histories again, I think the problem is how these institutes or how these game engines are actually, it's becoming kind of difficult. Like, we take interviews and we struggle a lot. I'll probably take it some other time, but yeah, people who come with a lot of games done also, it's always difficult. So
I have a big question, which is AI. You have did AI in a lot of in major ways. Also, artificial intelligence. That time, artificial intelligence is basically a gimmick, a trick. If we are comparing it with the old systems, and now we are using the real AI, you can say, because we are also
yeah,
using things like recurrent neural networks and all those for in our
yeah,
games. So
yeah,
how the change, how do you see this change, and how do you see and the transformation in AI in the, I mean, how do you see this coming up, and is it going to benefit the games, the overall experience, and
yeah.
what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, not just the game experience, overall game development also will be, positively affected by AI for sure. That's gonna happen. But going back in the older days, right? AI was super simple, right? You just
Absolutely.
take, in a way, finite state machine was the, you know, even now it is the, kind of the core of most games. Also, like we play Call of Duty and all. Largely, they are using the same old trick of the shortest path algorithms and the finite states and stuff like that. Still not using the complicated systems. But the thing is that those days, Like imagine Pac-Man, how simple it can be. The character is coming closer, run away, find the character, find the shortest path to reach this character. You're done with it. The character, my Pac-Man has actually eaten this blob, so now you can go and now he will come after you. So maintaining the distance. So these are like all if else conditions basically. It's a flow chart. Right now, it's becoming more and more complicated where there are decision systems within the game, right? You play
Absolutely.
Mass Effect, right? It goes like again, early days also text adventures were there, right? If you played text adventures, those were phenomenal, right? Those were the similar kind of decision engine kind of thing, and I used to love those things, and but in the current generation, you see it in your face, right? You play Heavy Rain, you play Detroit, Become Human, you play Mass Effect games, you play Skyrims of the world. All the time you are taking decision, and the game is completely changing. Like you play Witcher, right? Again, bigger
Absolutely.
world, bigger how you actually lay the path and stuff, and the progressive generation of the landscape and other things. The terrain is another big thing which is happening. So in the AI. I think the biggest beneficiary of the overall AI will be either car games kind of games or the RPGs games where the decisions of the NPCs will be influenced by my actions. So right now they are given like two or three options per choices, right? But the way I'm playing, the way I'm actually using my inventory system, or my character, and my all those things, the behavior of NPC will completely change, and it's already happening in a lot of prototypes. And the real kind of in fact some of the games will feature this thing. There was a game called Star Trek, which was coming up. They had the Watson AI built into that, and then they had some issues with IBM, and then they completely removed it. But character could speak, and just like Alexa decides and goes to the cloud and fetches what are the permutation combinations, and actually enables the entire system. So that the whole thing is actually, and with the power of the cloud, I'll see more and more of these kind of AI getting bigger. And because the thing is that to every action of mine, there are probably 1,000 possible reactions, right?
Absolutely.
Which if you are actually coding, it's always difficult to do.
Right.
But the thing is that when you actually just allow AI to learn and constantly understand the behavior and stuff, it will change dramatically, right? And the same thing will happen with, I'm saying car game largely because cars can actually find the hidden paths. When you map the entire area, right? How you deal with it, how do you take decisions, say similar things in the, of course, in shooter different ways. So the action reaction will completely be dependent on AI, and it's already happening. Another thing which is in the development side of the thing, Nvidia recently showcased their AI tool where they actually mapped the entire city and got it in Unreal Engine as a playable world. Something which would have taken probably a year plus for a big huge team also to create. They actually created with absolutely no time using AI. So the game development processes are also getting completely in a way influenced and impacted in a positive manner. QA is moving towards you've been playing game, right? Imagine playing the same game for a year. It's too much of a headache, right? And finding
Absolutely.
every nook and corner of this thing. Give this mundane job to an AI, right?
AI.
That will keep on playing for you. There are a lot of things which are happening in that direction already. And it can play the game without getting bored, right? And it will just constantly learn. That's the only thing is going to happen, right? And at the same time, it can actually pick things which are actually very very minute for human eye also within the scene, because it understands how the scene should be, and actually figure out. There is one company I'm forgetting, so they actually experimented game design also with using AI. So they gave some parameters, and it came with a lot of versions of the game design and stuff like that. So I guess the game development and game both are getting positively. And if you see where we were, like from the Pac-Man days or Prince of Persia days, where we had just the cone based kind of system, where whenever it's in the vicinity and something, the reaction will happen. And you play game like God of War, you play game like, you see constant evolution of AI. And it will just go just get better and better. It was just the computing power which was missing, and now computing power is immense. You Nvidia is actually pushing everything to the GPU now. So imagine the kind of teraflops you have available for you to process those kind of AI and physics data, right? It's humongous, And again, again, great example is GTA. How they use the euphoria system basically, in the GTA 5 itself, where the behavior of the crowd is also random. It was never
Right.
the same. Initially, like you play Midtown Madness, every single time behavior is the same because
Same.
it's a finite state. You if this, do that. Here if this, these are your plethora of options. Choose whatever, right? So AI integrated with right kind of physics is again gonna change games and the game development for a long, long time and forever, and it's gonna be super fun.
Also, there are a lot of variables on which AI might be functioning. For example, the characters has their own parameters of fear. Based on
Yeah, yeah,
what the value of fear is, based on that, he's gonna take its decision. It's gonna
precisely.
shoot
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
bullet or not based on fear. So there are
right.
plenty of details going on. Also, would like to cover this one detail. OpenAI is right now doing an experiment with a game
Yeah,
with a traditional game called hide and seek. And what they are doing is
yeah,
they have
yeah,
built a world, and there are
yeah.
two AI players, AI hider and
Right.
AI seeker, and they are
And seeker.
basically
Yeah,
breaking the physics of that game in tremendous way. So as you
absolutely.
said, the
Yep,
testing job is going to be held to AI. So they are going to break
absolutely.
your physics engines so well, and there are plenty
So
of
much.
there are plenty of
Yeah,
options, and there are plenty of improvements which we're gonna find out, which is not possible with human testing.
absolutely. Imagine multiplayer games, right?
Absolutely.
How do you simulate the entire traffic? How do you different conditions, right? What my internet speed is low, right? How do you simulate that? How do you do this? All those kind of things, breaking, and again, like stress testing, right? You have to keep on playing the game for probably 18 hours or something like that because there will be gamers, who will be playing in one single sitting and trying to
Absolutely.
finish this Last of Us, which is there, right? So the game should not have the memory leaks and all those kind of things and stuff, right? So somebody has to literally set, you just pass it on to AI, right? And the breaking, as you rightly said, breaking the physics, breaking the entire, scope of AI, finding those, where nav mesh is missing, or some, all the glitches and other things which happen. So it's definitely going to change, big time. It's already changing. People have created amazing prototypes and stuff. We just need to see those things in the real studio, real software, and which is just about time, So.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So also, you have did a lot of work in virtual reality. So my
Yeah.
question to you is, what are the ethics of virtual reality? Because before starting any virtual reality course, I teach them what are the ethics. Don't show anyone a building cliff. Don't make them stand on that, because it's going to also have a psychological effect on the human who is experiencing that. You cannot punch someone on the face.
Yeah.
Similarly, you cannot show
Mm.
someone punching them on the face, because they're going to actually feel that, and
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
know the emotional effects of that so yet. Okay, so my questions
Yes.
are, what are the ethics? Also, what are your tips to create a virtual reality experience badass?
So pretty much what you said, I think, few things which we generally do and say that never put, throw anything on the face of the character or, on the character, like, something falling, like, in fact, I have a presentation where I show, you know, on the character because that time the reaction you can't even expect, like, predict the reaction of the player who's playing it, not
Absolutely.
many can actually digest those kind of things, and of course there are a lot of caveats to how you can scare people. Like we worked on Resident Evil, right? So that is the classic example of creating the fear factor, right?
Absolutely.
But we never cross the line of forcing, like, you should not reach the level where people remove this and then they say, okay, now I just don't want to go back in the VR ever again, kind of thing,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Because yeah, so you need to probably, and the Walking Dead did pretty much the same thing, it's a pretty decent, like the Skydance studio had done that. So we are actually talking to them and we are trying to do something with them at this moment. And so again, what we why the reason out of all of those I'm picking Walking Dead here is that the way they have done is the all the combat system and all those things are happening in a way which it's very subtle. Never show too much of blood, never show all those kind of things. Stay away from anything which can affect somebody in a long term, and so these are some of the things. So pretty much, what you said is just the elaboration of the same thing I'm talking about here. When we do, and again, the rest of things are fairly technical when we say, okay, for weighted rendering and all those kind of, the frame drop should not happen because it can give you a nauseated effect and stuff, which we don't want people to actually have. So I think that's a discipline. Even somebody, okay, okay, fair enough. If I'm getting 70 fps, sometimes dropping to 70 is fine, but it's not fine actually. Even a small jitter in the frame rate can actually, so it should smoothly run at the 90 fps, which is the suggested fps for VR experiences and stuff. But ethically, I would say, I guess, never scare somebody to, never throw something on, people, never have fire absolutely in and around the vicinity of, the character, and especially the crane example, which I generally show in a video, is the most brutal example, because
Absolutely.
people will literally, can get heart attack kind of thing and stuff like that. And it's not a joke. We are not like, it's a reality. People have done a lot of tests around the whole fear factor of this thing. There had been positive ways, what like this Vans and the, these guys actually had their sneakers, right? So they actually took people to a height and then let them be there, people who had acrophobia, right? And slowly they got this whole acrophobia killed completely, and because if you keep on doing something, so it's a positive way of creating the scare factor. But the negative way is just for the kick, like let me, punish this guy. Never have something high speed. We keep saying this, but at the same time, I enjoy some of the very high speed games in VR. I think how you manage the speed is a matter of, it's a play test basically. You need to give it to a lot of play testing guys and stuff and figure out what is the right speed what people can manage. Because if something is super high paced and something like that, people gonna throw up, for sure. So earlier I was very clear that this was one of the unethical things, just like the scare factor. But slowly, I think the world is understanding what is the right fast paced thing. So I guess we are learning, this part also.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, pretty good tips. And also there's one more pretty challenging thing and pretty interesting. What I found is now we are creating the experiences both ways. So we are imagining that how the player will interact to the objects when he's using the room scale settings, and also when he's
Yeah,
just sitting in a chair. So because the amount of motion he has to take, the amount of movement he could take is very limited. So you have to design around those perspective as well.
absolutely. So the
Also,
biggest thing, what
yeah,
it has changed in, in VR is that you can't imagine your camera to be like this anymore,
right,
right? Your
absolutely.
camera is all around you.
All
And the
around you.
thing is that another tip, since you talked about the tips, like, so earlier, like, game developer could actually, just cull it out things which are actually a little far off or something, you think that player will not go. Now you can't restrict, player. If I want to go this side, I will still go this side, and I want to look at something, so I'll still look at that thing. So the thing is, the amount of detail you need to put in is need to be humongous, and still you need to manage the frame rate there. So the thing is that, the attention to detail should be all around you, because your camera is all around you now, and it's no more in the control of the game designer or someone where you said, okay, I want player to focus in this side only, so he focus. Player can still completely detach, himself or herself, and can go in whatever direction. So you need to make sure that everything you put in the game in whatever direction have some meaning, and at the same time have some utility and use, and some interaction should always be there. I see, I go to a whiteboard and I see a marker over there, and I just put it like that. It will not work. It might work very well in a
Absolutely.
AAA game also, but in VR game, what is my tendency? I'll pick the marker and would like to scribble something on the whiteboard. Can I do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
If there is a coffee cup, I would want to pick it up and drink my coffee.
And
So attention to
Half-Life
detail has
Alex,
gone to some other level.
yeah, Half-Life
Yeah,
Alex is the pretty good example of that, because all of the stuff you can touch
absolutely.
is pretty much working. So it's really
Everything
amazing.
works
Yeah.
exactly. So
So
there is, and that's one of the reason it is the hello of VR right now.
right,
It is what we were looking for, and there is a reason it sold 1 million copies plus, and added around 950,000 new headsets in just the April, on Steam. So
absolutely.
that's the reason, because it's done so well. So people are not figuring out what do I do in this world. People know exactly what to do in this world because it's my real world. I'm there. What I can do with this thing, I can actually pick it up. I'm picking it up. I can do this. I'll do this. I want to punch it. I'll punch it. There's a bottle. I want to take it and drink it. I can drink it.
Also,
So
when
that's what is.
yeah. Also, when I talk about virtual reality, I suggest this technology as the mental teleportation. Means you are teleporting
Yeah,
someone's consciousness into your own created world. So, also,
sure.
absolutely, this is an amazing thing to happen. Would like to now come on the most heated debate, which is right now the COVID-19. So, COVID-19 has
Right.
did a major impact, a major effect on this whole planet. So what's going to be the life of gaming industry people after this? So how the games will affect from this in the near future, as well as right now we are affecting, and what is the current effect and what's going to be the near future of this?
Okay. So current effect is that there are two things. So game industry is profiting. At this
Absolutely.
moment, because of this pandemic thing. The I keep talking about Call of Duty Warzone, right? Perfect timing. Just
Perfect.
happened before the pandemic, right? Animal Crossing, Nintendo Switch, right? Just happened before, like around in the pandemic time itself, right? And became Nintendo's highest selling launch platform, basically launch
Absolutely.
game. Beating Zelda and Mario. Imagine it wouldn't have happened without pandemic. And the sales on the Steam, the numbers on the Twitch, even the mobile, this thing skyrocketing, right, everywhere. Indies are super happy because that's all they wanted. Sit at home and make games, so they are happily making games now. They were already pretty distributed team, so I don't think they're this thing actually got affected. The biggest impact happened because all the events like the GDCs, the E3, the PAX, the Gamescom, everything got cancelled, right? But the positive side is that all moved online. So the thing is
Absolutely.
that now you're getting knowledge free of cost sitting at home, or even at like not free. It's a super low, right? Imagine going to GDC. It was like $10,000 for an Indian. Put together everything, $5,000 to $10,000 easily. It depends how you want to live. So that's the kind of money was there. But now the same GDC is available for you or under $100, right?
Absolutely.
And sitting at the comfort of your place, you don't need to worry about food. You don't need to worry about the hotels and all those things and the cost of that. So that's the positive side of the thing. The At the same time, there are a lot of game pitching sessions are happening. So you can pitch to publisher, you can pitch to investors, and all those things which are happening. The only thing is that decision making is kind of delayed at this moment because there are so many caveats to everything, and that is not happening. So that pace got hampered. The biggest affected industry will be the play game industry, because there they don't have the overlap of work. Like I know a couple of game studios where there are 3 or 4 members and they still make games, right? And they're okay with that. So but that doesn't happen in the bigger AAA kind of games where you have like 100, 200, 300, 500 kind of team, and there are absolutely no overlap of work. And then there are a lot of other dependencies like setting up the same environment, setting up the test environment, and consoles generally are bound to your office studio IPs. So your IP binding actually does not allow you to actually take your consoles home and work from there. But again, you need to debound it and all that kind of things exist. We can do that, but overall impact, and that's one of the reason why we had been discussing in my with my friends also, that this year probably AAA game are not going to be of the same quality if they actually come during the holiday season, because they have lost 3 to 4 months easily in this entire process. So probably this year indies can launch their games during holiday. Probably they can dare to do that. At the same time, PS5 launch and the Xbox X launch and stuff will get again affected, because even if they release, which they will release for sure, the numbers which will come out in the first batch are going to be significantly lower, because China was closed, right? So the entire manufacture, the overall game industry, if you see, it's a big, huge industry. So the hardware wise, it will get affected big time in a way. So if I was probably launching 20 million in the first batch, I'll probably launch 2, 3 million, 5 million kind of units, whatever they can produce within this period of time. There will be a lot of crunches which will happen for the AAA game studio employees, which is not good. But you can't help it, right? It's a business decision. If you have to release the game in November, you have to release the game in November and December. So I think the crunch will be a big thing. There are a lot of layoffs which we are aware of, which happened during this COVID time in the bigger studios. So, but great for indie studios. I think overall it has been boon for them. For all the indie studios to sit at home and work on their favorite games and their things and stuff, and getting feedback, because now there is no urgency. You can sit, you can get on Discord and open your game channel and keep listening to people, keep collecting feedback, keep improving. Another good thing happened in the game industry, since the question was a little broader, is that after this whole COVID thing, the number of Discord channels which opened up, the number of WhatsApp groups which opened up are humongous, right? It
Humongous.
was never there
Absolutely.
because people were like constantly in the firefighting mode, always like working and getting their stuff. But now they have time because they are not getting ready, they are not going to the office, they are not doing these things. Even if you finish your work, you have time. So people are discussing, people are engaging in more productive exercises and this thing. So this is the short term overall thing, but the long term, I don't think this will sustain this kind of unprecedented. And I think you need to make the most of what it is available for you now. But few things will change, that most of the big conferences will always have their online presence, which should happen, and that way somebody sitting in Iran or somebody sitting in Bangladesh can be as aware of the situation and the knowledge as any American or as any Westerner, basically. And so it is basically creating an ecosystem which I personally think will last for a long, long time. Another thing which might happen is that some of the events, like E3 kind of events, expos and other thing, can completely be online. So this time has proved that the online model is functional. It works. It is kind of a validation, if not fully, it's there. So probably a great time for a technology like Improbable or someone to come up with a multiverse where hundreds and thousands of people can come and attend the expos and all those kind of things. So there is one expo which was done by Exola, which was absolutely an online event where, like, I think they had like 6 different zones. In each zone they had around 5 to 10 booths. So people were like going to those booths just like this thing. So telepresence is becoming big, and I think it will remain kind of relevant. And it's just the validation time. I think that the long term change, that telepresence will become a thing, other than Zoom, Skype, and all those things what we have. So, but in terms of game development, another thing, I think some game will come with COVID theme, and but again, yeah, few more long term I see is like the business models will evolve.
Absolutely.
Esports again esports got validated. People had been talking about esports for a long time. Now this was the time when no real games and sports were happening, but esports was happening, right? So in a way, people were twitching and all those things. So those things, they really became big. So I think so long term, and there'll be some new players now, because during this time everybody was playing. Your dads were playing, your granddads were playing, so some of those will actually stick to this thing, and so you added some new gamers. So that is another thing I see happening.
One more related discussion is that what will be the effect of the outdoor entertainment industry,
uh
as you are already working on the theme parks. So what is going to
yeah.
be the effect on that? What is the near future? The current effect is currently almost dead. So what is the upcoming? What are the upcoming numbers we'll see, and what are the when do we see everything going back to normal?
Yep, good question here. So I'll tell you one thing about the theme park and LB. Basically, it's location-based entertainment. These are the experience economy. Basically, it's
Right.
a business of happiness. People pay to get happy.
Absolutely.
And so the thing is that the mindset should already be there. I think this is the one of the most severely affected industry right now, and fortunately or unfortunately, whatever it is, I am part of that industry. So the thing is that I'll tell you some just a quick background before we talk about
Sure, sure.
what will be the impact. In 2019, so in 2019, basically, the LBVR market was roughly around $3.6 billion, right? Which was a 44% growth from the last year of
Absolutely.
so which is like a steep jump. So in a way we were like almost there to have our foot there, like it's an established business kind of, and that's one of the reason a lot of upcoming trend and other thing did not capture VR, because we are actually established, got established, and
Absolutely.
especially
Yeah.
LBVR business got established. We have like roughly around 15,000 VR parks across the globe at this moment, considering all the VR and LBVR kind of things. Even Dave and Buster had roughly around 137 locations where they had VR as one of the core thing.
Wow.
We saw the rise of the companies like Hologates, Hologate, Blades, Hyperdeck and Dove Defender, like all those, Hologate things and stuff, whatever they were coming with. Zero Latency got 60 new locations, right? Void was kicking some butt over there in that business. So all the thing, because we were offering greater immersion, game worlds becoming non-linear, you could actually define your this thing. Unlike Disneyland and other places, LBVR had huge thing because content is very quick to change, right?
Absolutely.
A smaller place, small thing and stuff, and still have the larger footprint. Like you have Ghostbuster today, you have Star Wars tomorrow,
Right.
kind of thing. Just like movie shows and all those kind of thing. So and then VR was reaching where people could actually influence their own plot, right? They could design their own stories. All the options were in their faces and all those kind of things. So this was the greatness. We were almost touching. Now this sudden collapse, boom, right? And just like movie industry, VR became the first one to get closed, because VR, as we know, hygiene is one of the biggest things,
Absolutely.
and at the same time very close packed locations. The same thing is happening in theme park, because people come in like crowd, like it's not like one or two three kind of people, like always a massive crowd coming. And at the same time rides are also the same thing, because you're sitting on the ride, you can't keep on cleaning. Your in and out time is usually 2 to 4 minutes. How do you clean so quickly the entire ride systems and all those things? And
Absolutely.
so in all possible ways, it is the most affected industry at this moment. Even the smallest VR at this moment, like globally doing, I would say if you are like in 600 to 1400 meters, $1 to $3 million a year they were making, and
Wow.
they were happily charging around dollar per minute kind of number,
Absolutely.
the 50 cents to $1 kind of thing. So this entire thing is completely at the rock bottom at this moment. I'm like in fact, one of the project which we were just about to start, that was roughly around 136-acre theme park. And of course, all the formalities and other things are done. So this is going to happen, but nothing is going to happen till November, or I hope I'll be lucky, if that happens. But absolutely no traction, because people, as I told you, that we are in the business of happiness. People, and it's a basically completely emotional thing, right? Right now emotions are not allowing people to actually go out. There is, even if you open up, there is a fear factor, right? So even if you open, you have to open with lesser capacity. So but of course there are plus side which I'll probably talk about. If you look at the Disney's, this thing, 3.4 billion revenue loss this year. A massive layoff happened in Disney, right? And similarly, top five companies you can name, in the theme park industry, they all went through this whole layoff system, and everybody's losing it, like 233 million for Universal, loss in just the, this thing. So everybody has to face this, but I think, it's a great time, in a way. So let's talk about why, there is a positive also attached to this thing. This
Okay.
is probably the first time in the history of the location based entertainment or theme park entertainment where you can actually sit down and re-innovate every single thing. Because every day we were busy running the park and going through the same cycle. We were
Absolutely.
not thinking of how we can innovate this whole thing. This is the first time we are sitting with the entire draft in front of us, and we were thinking, okay, this is where we will have the projection mapping show. Now projection mapping show, because it is a tried and tested model, right?
Absolutely.
Every place will go. But the thing is that, okay, now what we will do, we'll integrate the HoloLens kind of thing or Magic Leap kind of thing with projection mapping. So when you are in the queue, you will have this experience. Then you have the projection mapping with a lot of animatronics, which will happen. And when you are going out, we will have a platform which will shake and all those kind of things. Where do you get this platform? These are the possible providers of that. So the thing is that we are able, probably for the first time, we are able to think beyond what we had been providing as a solution. So
Absolutely.
that's the number one positive side of the thing. Number two is that a lot of things will become digital, including queuing system. Like imagine the flight. So last time when I went to Disney World, I was in the for Avatar ride. I was in the queue for like 5.5 hours. Five and a half fucking hours just to be it to witness the Avatar, ride. Just
Wow.
doesn't make any sense, right?
Right.
You know, uh, because then I can't do anything else. At least that particular day, I'm so done, exhausted, and I have to remain standing there. I and in the queue, there is no way I can leave the queue also, right? So and there are limited restrooms and stuff like that. So the entire queuing system is moving to digital now. So when you go there, just like you go to some restaurants and stuff, they take your number and stuff. It's kind of a digital thing. You are given the number and a possible time slot. You are given that indicator that 1:30 you can come here, and within 15 minutes or 10 minutes you will be in the ride. And that's what we were looking for. So now you don't need to be in the queue all day long. You can be happily going anywhere. Just before time itself, you will get an indicator that you can go there, and now you're not wasting any time. So the entire queuing system is becoming digital. The entire payment system and all those things are becoming completely contactless. Which is another thing. So people are able to think of all the. Then there is this hygiene level. Earlier hygiene was something else. Now UVC has come up and all those things. So the thing is, it's a long term, a great thing for the entire humanity in a way, that you are defining what should be your mechanism to actually provide the most hygienic places in the world. Basically, like earlier also, if you go to some of the places like zero latency and all those places, like you have the VR headset, they remove it, they clean it, and all those things. Now you just put in the UVC thing, it just passes through, and it's completely degerminated and all. So this will become
Absolutely.
a norm with pretty much everybody. The prices will come down for sure. Instead of being like $1 per minute kind of thing, it will come down to 50 cents or 75 cents kind of thing. Another great thing which might happen and happening is that we were going to the location based entertainment, but now locations are coming to your house
Us.
also in a way, because you're
Absolutely.
choosing VR, like how Louvre has done, right? How the British Museum has done, so in a way they have the entire experience in VR. So you can actually visit Louvre Museum, which actually will take a month probably to see it full. Like people generally go to see Mona Lisa and couple of things and come out, but because again the same queuing system, all those things. I think uh, in a long run, it will be an amazing. So again, in wartime kind of situations, there is always innovation happening, right? The telegram, internet, all those were actually result of war times. When war happened, people came up with internet and all those things. So
Absolutely.
similarly, I think this is the wartime, and people are coming up with a lot of innovative things which never happened in last 60, 70 years of theme parks and the arcade centers and stuff like that. So this is the probably, I think, and people are finding new ways to tell story and spending more time in designing their ride than taking the beaten path, which was there. So I think plus and minus, I'm the advocate of positivity. So I would say I'm kind of learning a lot of new things. Of course, we run a lot of virtual reality arcades also, around 50, and those are also closed at this moment. That's just part of the overall big scheme of thing which is happening. That's at the same time theme parks also. But I think we spent this entire time renovating ourselves, finding newer ways to actually move around people, with your own. So I keep saying, that game development and game design is same as theme park design.
Absolutely.
You play with the emotion, you play with the movement of your visitors, and that's what, this is the time when we are actually proving it. And just like the game industry is evolving, I think this is the first time when the theme park industry will evolve to some other level in a bigger way, in a global way, not just at some location. Like Disney had always been innovating a lot of things, but even the traditional theme park guys will come up with new innovations now.
Absolutely amazing. So yeah, the rebirth of the industry we'll experience after this pandemic. This is what you said,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
would love to know amazing tips, and would love to also know some tips from you from the for the youngsters and the people who are starting in this industry or starting in the gaming industry. So what is your
Mhm.
opinion and what is your tips to them? What is your message to them? Would love to know that.
Sure. Message is very clear. Number one, the trigger is always passion.
Absolutely.
You should absolutely passionate. The second tip, which is the most important tip, and especially very, very relevant here in India and emerging countries, where most of the gamers, get into that uh, trap that, because they love playing game, that means they can actually make games, and if they can't make game, they feel that they are failures. So here's the quick tip. If you are going to a halwai shop and eating jalebi, or going to a bakery and eating pastry, that does not mean that you are good at making pastry. You are good
Right.
at eating pastry, and
Right.
but if you have any inclination towards it, try to dissect it. Try to figure out how it is done. The most important aspect is doing the postmortem. Understanding, breaking the system, and figuring out how it works. That is very important, because that's when you actually try to see everything very, very clearly. What's going to work for you in your life and not necessarily. If you're not part of the game development, you can't be part of the game industry. You can be the game streamer, you can be the game journalist, you can be a professional game player, right? There are so many alternate careers which game industry offers. You should not necessarily, there are so many movie critics, right? They criticize movies, but that does not mean they can actually make movies, right? So
Right.
the same thing happens in the game industry. And if you break it down, like a lot of people come to me and ask me, what should I be doing? Right? That is the question you should be asking. The thing is that if you have inclination towards science and maths kind of thing and stuff, then you're definitely, your path is, more of programming side, because you
Right.
need to figure out that this is where you can scientifically implement all the things. If you are more artistic driven, and at the same time have understanding of basic 3D math and stuff, art is the this thing. If you're a great storyteller, then figure out the game design. And game design, again, another thing. I keep saying that ideas are like asshole. Everybody's got one. You know, that just having idea doesn't mean anything. You should be able to actually see the end, result with each and everything very, very clearly elaborated. How it will be played. What are the different, challenges? How you'll play with the emotion. So what you do in the game is actually you know a lot of, as a game designer, you need to know psychology of the player, right? Even if that guy is a couch potato, sitting with a controller and all that, still you need to make him feel that he's a superhero, right?
Absolutely.
You need to get in the rage mode. You need to play when you can actually give him the rage mode, when he should go with the gun blazing, or feel like he's really driving that Ferrari and all those kind of things. All the things what you would want to do in real life. I'm giving you while you are sitting in the couch potato, because I'm making you feel that you are the superhero. And that's why Nintendo says, you are the winner, right? Because that's what they want to see, that every single time we want to give you that feeling, like the Last of Us situation. If a real person is left in that kind of place, you can't survive, right? But the game gives you that thing. So the understanding and breaking the whole thing, seeing it from more observational point of view than just playing it, is kind of a very, very important exercise. Once you do, I think the doors will open automatically for you, and then you go after it, kind of with a laser sharp focus kind of thing, that okay, I want to be, if I'm doing engineering, I'm doing engineering because I want to be a game programmer. So your entire engineering should be geared towards this. Everything else can fade. I'm okay if you're getting 45% in everything else, but if you're getting C, in your maths and C++, you're 70. I'm not talking about the percentage. It's just an Forget about the percentage system and the whole bullshit thing. But even if you learn one thing which can actually take you up there, just focus on those things, cull out everything else. Everything else is just noise in your life. People keep coming to me, Rajat, you've done this, why don't you do this also, do this also, do that also. I don't want to put my head around everything. Even after doing these many things, theme park was absolutely natural progression for me, because I always saw, ever since I saw the GDC talk, how that girl learned the level design from Disneyland. I just reversed the whole process.
Right.
I make Disneyland after making the games and stuff. So
Wow.
I think passion, laser sharp focus, working towards it, being in the community, showing shamelessly to your early prototypes and stuff. There is nothing called stealth mode. If somebody comes to me saying stealth mode, I say fuck off. Because stealth mode means nothing in this world. More you share, more you get feedback from. Nobody can steal what's in your head, and just go after it. Otherwise, probably after Doom, there won't have been any second FPS, right? If Doom was everything. So there is always something, you can create. Be shameless about things, go after, people, attend as many shows, see people, get inspired. Don't worship, people like people do with some of our ministers and all those things. In game development also this happens, sometimes, and I hate it. It's a very, very approachable industry. You can reach out to anybody, talk about your pain, talk about your goals and everything, and I don't think people will laugh. There are some people who will troll you, but on every 10 troller you will have probably 10,000 who are going to support you. So just be
Absolutely.
shamelessly open about what you're doing.
It's my honor and privilege to host such a guest, and amazing to have you here on the XRDI community. So thanks for coming, and we are a community in XR, which means we are trying to democratize augmented reality, virtual reality technology to everybody who wants to learn it, who wants to adopt it in any ways, with mix their own experiences with this technology. So yeah, it was an honor to host you on the show, and you shared amazing stuff. You have worked on games like Resident Evil, games like so much hustle in this industry. So it's really amazing to learn from you. It's really amazing to know your experiences. Thanks for coming.
It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure being on the show, man. I definitely, you're doing amazing job with this, and in sharing knowledge. What can be better than that, right? So great. It was absolutely pleasure of mine.
Thanks, sir. So this was Rajat Ojha, and he had such a great experience, and he shared his experience with us. So with this, let's end our stream right now and follow his work, follow his company, Gamertronics.